Hello, my name is Father Charles Bouchard, and I'm here today to offer you a word of hope on the readings for Good Friday, the Passion of the Lord. Now, the other night I was watching the evening news, and they had a segment on about the destruction in Gaza. And before they showed the footage, the announcer says, this is a warning that there are some very graphic images. There are some very graphic images coming up here. So if you would not like to watch them, you should turn away. And I noticed, I've heard that before, of course, and I've seen the same kind of thing the few times that I've witnessed a scene of a crime or a car accident or a house fire. The police always put up screens so that bystanders can't see what's going on. And of course, part of the reason for that is to preserve the dignity of the victims of that fire or of that disaster. But it's also to save us from the trauma of having to experience death and suffering firsthand, because it is traumatic for us as well. I experienced this in a more, if I could say, domestic way recently when I did a funeral for a very dear friend of mine. And when I arrived at the chapel for the funeral, the casket was there, and this friend's body was laid out, as we do. And I realized that I had to hesitate for a moment before I approached the casket. I wasn't sure whether I was really able to come that close to the reality of death, to see and to be so close to a woman who had been a close friend for so many years and who had been vibrant and enthusiastic and loving and caring, and now to see her at close range, cold and still. This was an encounter with death, which is difficult for all of us when we have to do it. Seeing the reality of death as we prepare for a funeral is not something that's pleasant or enjoyable. And I think it's important for us to remember that today on Good Friday, because today, of all the days in the year, is the one day that we may not look away from death. That all the readings, all the ceremony, all the liturgy that we go through regarding the Passion of the Lord is all geared to bring us into direct contact with the death of Jesus. And it is an opportunity for us to enter into that dying, and not only the death of Jesus, but our own death as well. You know, we're all going to die, and we can't say that our deaths are the same as Jesus's, because his had a redemptive power that ours do not. But nonetheless, my death and the death of the Lord are bound very closely together. We talk about being baptized into Christ's death, and that's instructive to us. It really means that we go down into the waters of baptism and down into the waters of death. So perhaps today on Good Friday, it would be helpful to us to reflect deeply on the suffering and death of Christ as we hear these readings and as we reverence the cross and as we think of what the Lord went through for us. But as we do that, let us also remember our own deaths, which are bound up with his, our own mortality. And let us ask that those things may be brought together, our death and the death of the Lord, in a way that is salvific for us and which will lead to eternal life.